Hello guys, in today's tutorial we'll be making a jump. Not an ordinary one like we had in our first player, like jumps and that's it. We'll have a jump that scales with the amount of time that we hit the jump key. Anyways, this tutorial will be a long one, so I might have to divide it in two. But anyways, here are the sprites, the jump sprites that we'll be using. And they are over here too. And I'm going to import them right now. Here are they. But the last thing I'll take care about is the animations. So for now, just do the usual. Change this to multiple point, 2 point, and change this to 10 because it's our player, and all the other player sprites are 10. Anyways, slash it 20 by 20. And now we're going to take care of the code. Apply. Just like we did in the other player, we'll be taking care of this. We'll be checking if our player is on the ground or not by using some sort of array cast, but this time instead of being a circular one like the one here on that guy, it will be a square one, just because. And when that square thing hits the ground, well, then our player will be able to jump. Let's go to the code, and I'm going to make that jump code down here. So let's get started with that square below our player. Let's create a bool called grounded, and that square will return to our false to this grounded bool. And how do we spam that square? Well, by using the physics 2D, we'll be using the overlap area. And what this overlap area asks for is a point A and a point B, which is something like one of the edges of the square, like this edge and this edge, or this one and this one, something like that. And that's what we're going to give to Unity. Overlap area, and that will request 2 points, which will be the edges, those edges of the area, and let's just name them point 1 and point 2. And we're going to also add a layer mask. Oh, by the way, these are transforms. We want the position, only the position of the transform. So dot position, and it also wants a layer mask, so we're going to name a layer mask over here called only ground mask. Close parenthesis, semicolon, and let's create these variables in the top. So here, name them public transform point 1. Copy this and make the point 2, and make also a public layer mask called only ground layer. Save this. Oh, something is wrong. Only ground mask, not layer. And in Unity, we'll now create those 2 points that we over here, these 2 points. So press Ctrl Shift N 2 times, Ctrl Shift N to create 2 empty game objects and name them point 1 and point 2. Doc and make them child of the player, so like this. And now we're going to make those points position below the player. So like here is fine, and this one right over here, to make a real thin rectangle, something more like this instead of that. Anyways, in our player, we're now going to have to set those 2 points, point 1 endpoint 2, and now we're going to set the public layer mask that we created, and to where it's specified which layer we want this imaginary box to collide, and that layer will be the ground layer, because we only want our player to be on the ground when he's on one of these grass things that always have the layer ground. All of them have the ground layer, as you can see. And now if we play, you can see that our player is on the ground, and when we lift it up, he stops going, being on the ground, and now he is back on the ground. Now let's take care of the jumping stuff. And when do we want our player to jump? Well, he has to be on the ground first, so if the player is grounded, and our player has also to be pressing the input, one input key, we'll make it the W key for now. We can change that later. Anyways, input dot get key down, attention, get key down, not get key only, get key down dot W. And if those two things happen, well, our player will start jumping, but we don't want our player only to jump. We'll also do other stuff. Anyways, let's give him the first jump. So rigidbody2d.add force, the new vector 2, and the x force will be 0, and the 0 force will be a float that will determine in the inspector. So create a variable over here, public jump force float, and we want our player also to jump when the player keeps pressing the W key, because let me try to explain how this works. Okay, so I made this very complex graphic in Paint that shows you when this input.getKey something is true or false. So if we use input.getKey down, well, that's only true only in the first frame that we press a certain key. In all the other frames, it will be false. When we use the input.getKey only without anything after, well, that will return true in every frame after the first one, every frame until the last frame that we press that same key. And the get key up will only be true in the first frame that key goes back again into not being pressed. And with this in mind, we're now going to make the input.getKey stuff. Else if input.getKey key code dot W, well, if we keep pressing W, we also want our player to jump. So we'll also add a rigidbody2d force to it. But we don't want our player to jump. Even if we are on the air and we press this, our player could jump with the code like this, and that's not what we want. And I'm going to make this a little bit more complex by creating some variables over here that tell us when our player can or cannot jump. So let's create some variables over here on the top, and that will be the public float timer, a bool called can jump, and another float called max time. And well, for starters, we will be setting the can jump variable to true when we press the key for the first time. And so if we keep pressing the key and only if the can jump is true, the force will be added again. Else, so if for some reason we stop pressing the W key, we want to make our can jump equal to false again. And this way, even if we stop pressing the W key and we are still on the air, we can't jump again, and we can't even keep pressing it to jump again. I don't know how to explain this very well, but it will work. And of course, we don't want our player to be able to jump for infinite time, to being added force to it for an infinite time. So we're going to also add a timer. So that timer, oops, will be equal to 0 over here. And every time that the player keeps pressing the W key, it will be added to that timer. It will be added to that timer the time that has passed since the last frame. So time dot delta time. What this does is basically every time this function goes, something will be added to this timer, and for example, you want to make it after some time, it stops executing. So we only want our player to be able to add more force to the player if the key code W is pressed, if can jump is true, and if the timer is smaller than a variable that we created up there, which is the max time variable. So for example, if we set this max variable to be by default 0.1 seconds, after 0.1 seconds have been passed, this will be deactivated and this will not happen again. And I think this is working right now, so let's save it. Go back into Unity, and of course we're going to set some variables over here. The jump force, we'll set it to 50. The timer will be 0 by default. The max time will be 0.1 by default, which will be the max time that our player keeps pressing the W key that can affect the movement of our player. And we want also to go to the edit, project settings, physics 2D, and change the gravity to be, instead of that, minus 50. And now hopefully our player will jump, but not enough. How can we solve this? Well, first we can make so that the first impulse that is given to the player is a bit stronger than all the other impulses by multiplying the jump force by 3 only and only if the W key is pressed for the first time. When it keeps getting pressed, it won't be changed. Save the code, and right now it should be a bit better, but not that much better. So we can also, of course, increase that jump force over there. Let's see, something like 100 if it works. Okay, it works. As you can see, you can jump a little bit or a lot, and it will always work. Let me just zoom out a little bit with the camera so that you can see some stuff. And as you can see, it can jump a little bit or a lot. And you can even make that press time bigger. Let me show you this max time. If we make it 1 second, well, our player could be pressing the W key for 1 second, and it would make the player go higher and higher as hell. But we want our player to not jump very high, so 0.1 is fine. And now let's take care of the animations. So for these jump animations, we want to make something a little bit different. Anyways, click on the player and go on to the animations window, and let's create some new animations. We will not create a player to jump animation, we'll create several jump animations. So actually we'll create 4. So player jump 1, And what will that be? Well, it will be the first state of the jump, which is this one. So drag it over there, create a new one called player jump 2, which will be the second state of the jump. Create another one, player jump 3, it will be equal to this one. And for the last one, player 2 jump 4, and it will equal to the last state. Back in the animator of the player, we have some, besides the stuff that we already have added, we have some more stuff, and we're going to delete all those animations because we don't need them. We will need them, but in another way. And so create here a blend tree, and I'll show you how to program it right now. Call this blend tree jump tree, and this jump tree, well, first, how do we go to the jump tree? Well, we want to go to the jump tree every time that our player is not grounded, and so we can make a transition from any state to the jump tree, and from the jump tree back to idle when our player is or is not grounded. So let's create a parameter over here, a bool parameter called grounded, so that when our player is not grounded, it will go to the jump tree animation, and grounded is false, and when the player is grounded, it will go back to the player idle animation, like this. And now, to make the jump tree, we'll be needing another variable or another parameter, and we'll call it y velocity or velocity y, something like that. It doesn't really matter. And well, let's program that. And well, let's program that in MonoDevelop. Those variables that we just created here in the top of the update function, we want to access the animation, and we're going to set the bool that we named grounded to be equal to the grounded bool that's in this very code. Now we also want to set the bool, set the float that we named velocity y to be equal to the velocity of our player. So rigid body 2D dot velocity dot y. Okay, and with this setup, let's make that tree. Click 2 times on the tree that we created, and we will be presented with this. If this parameter is not set up, set it to the variable that you created. And let's add 4 motion fields, one for each of the jump animations. As you can see, now we have to fill these fields, and to do that, just find the jump animations I have in the assets in the sprites folder. You might have them somewhere else. Where is the jump one? Here he is. And we want them to be ordered from 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 in this way, not the other way. And now we're going to set some thresholds. And let me explain this. The way this works is this, as this parameter over here changes, well, these animations will switch between one another. If, for example, the y velocity, the velocity y is -10, then the animation that will play is the jump 4 animation, which is when our player is already falling. Let me show you. It's this animation. So when the speed is -10, that animation will play. This animation over here, it will be when the player is like on the top of the jump, so its speed will be 0, its y speed it will be 0, because it's that's very instant before it goes back down again. And these two will be mid jump, mid going up, and this will and the jump one animation will play as soon as we hit the W key. Press play and let me show you how this works. And you see right now that if we jump, the animations play in this way, in this way, they play up, so that the first thing that happens is this one, and when the y velocity of this velocity over here reaches 12, this animation plays, and so on until it reaches the ground again, as you can see. And that's it for today, guys. Thank you for watching, and see you next time where we'll be adding more player mechanics.